Hello friends, welcome back to this series on MCQs on plant physiology, and today's topic of our discussion is on transpiration, an important physiological phenomenon in which we have said there is a loss of water in the form of water vapors from the aerial parts of plant body. So that we're going to discuss. Okay, you can see here a beautiful instrument called as a photometer, an instrument which is used to measure the rate of transpiration, the speed of transpiration. When there is water loss from the chute system, that water loss is measured by this instrument, which is called as photometer. So for representing this phenomenon, I have used this image. So we'll begin with our question answer session. Okay, so we'll begin with the first question. The loss of water in the form of vapors, water vapors from aerial parts of plant is called as. So this phenomenon is called as, it is called as transpiration. When there is a loss of water in the form of water vapors, in the form of gas, then it is called as transpiration. So this is a very similar process to that of evaporation. Only the difference is that evaporation is a physical process and this is a physiological process carried out by living organisms like plants. Whereas the loss of water in the form of liquid droplets called as guttation, which occurs through hydrothores that you have studied, and the loss of water in the form of again liquid sap is also called as exudation. Only the difference is that guttation is the phenomenon which occurs naturally from the uninjured parts of plant, whereas exudation takes place from the injured parts of plant, and that's why it is also called as exudation. So here our answer is transpiration. B is the right answer. What percentage of water absorbed by roots is lost through transpiration? So you have studied up to 98 to 99% of water is lost, and only 1 to 2% of water is utilized for its own metabolism by the plant. So answer here is B. The amount of water lost by stomatal transpiration. You have studied there are different types of transpiration. Stomatal transpiration, which is also called as foliar transpiration, transpiration that occurs through the leaves. And it accounts for, you have studied, it accounts for 90% of the total transpiration. Okay, so C is the right answer here. And the amount of water lost by cuticular transpiration, the transpiration occurring through the cuticle, which are actually meant for resisting transpiration, but sometimes there are some cracks in the cuticle through which there is water loss, and that accounts up to 10% of the total transpiration that takes place by this method. So A is the right answer. Whereas the amount of water lost by lenticular transpiration, the transpiration occurring through the lenticels, it accounts for just 0.1%. It is very negligible type of transpiration. So here the answer is option A. That is the right answer. Which of the following play a vital role, important role, living role in the stomatal movement? This mechanism of opening and closing of stomata is also called as stomatal movement or diurnal behavior of stomata. And which of the following play important role, vital role in the process? You have studied. These are the specialized epidermal cells called as the guard cells. So C is the right answer here. Next, the guard cells differ from other epidermal cells in having, guard cells are just like epidermal cells, but they are modified, they are specialized in being, they are living cells, they are having, apart from all these organelles, they are having chloroplast, and that's why they can photosynthesize. C is the right answer. Next one. Which of the following walls of guard cells is thin and elastic? So you have studied the guard cells have the cell walls, which are inner wall and outer wall. The inner wall of guard cell is thick and elastic, whereas the outer wall, inner wall is thick and elastic, whereas the outer wall is thin and elastic. So here the answer will be outer wall. Outer wall is thin and elastic. Inner wall that surrounds the central cavity, stomium, pore, is thick and elastic. So here the answer is outer wall. And this difference in the wall thickness plays a major role, important role in the mechanism of opening and closing of stomata. So here answer is outer wall. Outer wall is thin and elastic. Inner wall is thick and non-elastic. Next one. When the guard cells become turgid by some mechanism, stomata become. So you see the options here. When the guard cells are turgid, stomata, they open. When the guard cells become flaccid, stomata close. So here answer is A. Option A is the right answer. So arrange the following events in the order in which they occur during daytime for stomata opening. So see the events. So you have studied during daytime what happens. Sugar formation takes place, and this sugar is a soluble substance, so it increases the osmotic concentration of guard cell. That is osmotic pressure or diffusion pressure deficit of guard cell increases, and therefore it becomes more than that of the surrounding cell, and therefore it absorbs water from the surrounding cell by endosmosis, and therefore due to absorption of water by endosmosis, the cells become turgid, and there is increase in the turgor pressure of guard cells, and therefore wall gets stretched outward. The outer thin and elastic walls get stretched outward, and they also try to move the inner wall to which they are attached. But as the inner wall is thick and non-elastic, it just becomes concave at the place, and therefore the central cavity of stomata becomes open, that you have studied. So when you arrange these events properly, so you know that this is the first event, formation of sugar, then this happens, increase in DPD, then increase in TP, and then stretching of walls of guard cells. So C, B, A, D, that is the right answer. So here C is the right answer. Okay, so matching type question, match list 1 with list 2 and select the correct answer using the codes given below the list. So this is the first list, name of the scientist, historical development that occurred in the stomatal movement. So this is the second list, you have to match list 1 with list 2. So you know, von Moll in 1856, he was the first scientist who observed that stomata become open during daytime. Nowadays, everybody knows that stomata are open in daytime and they are closed during nighttime. But von Moll observed for the first time. That means he discovered that stomata are open during daytime because there is presence of light and there is a chloroplast in the guard cell. Therefore, it photosynthesizes and it produces sugar. So he gave photosynthesis hypothesis, von Moll. Then Lloyd and Lotfield in different years, they suggested that it is not the fact like that sugar is present in the guard cell and it is absent in the nighttime. It is present in the daytime and absent in the nighttime as per von Moll. But they suggested that there is interconversion of starch and sugar. During daytime, there is formation of sugar. During nighttime, there is formation of starch from the same sugar. So this is called as interconversion hypothesis, proposed by two different scientists, Lloyd and Lotfield. Then next scientist, Seri and Scarth, in different years, they suggested that this starch-sugar interconversion, which happens during day and night time, actually it is not directly dependent on the light. Light is not the factor which is responsible for this, but it is the pH. The changes in pH is responsible for this starch-sugar interconversion. It was given by Seri and Scarth. And they suggested that there is formation of sugar during daytime and starch during nighttime. Starch formation takes place when pH is acidic, and sugar formation occurs when the pH is alkaline or your neutral pH. So that was given by Seri and Scarth. Whereas these scientists, Heinz and In and Tung, the two Japanese scientists, they are concerned with the enzyme which is responsible for this interconversion, and they call this enzyme as phosphorylase. Actually, Heinz was the scientist who discovered this enzyme, phosphorylase, whereas the two Japanese scientists, In and Tung, they isolated this enzyme phosphorylase in crystalline form. So after matching these, you will get the right answer, option A, 1, 2, 4, 3. So 1, 2, 4, 3. Von Moll, photosynthesis, Lloyd and Lotfield, starch sugar, Seri and Scarth, changes in pH, and Heinz and In and Tung, enzyme phosphorylase. So right answer is option A. Okay, the pH responsible for the closure of stomata is, just now I told, acidic pH favors the closure of stomata, whereas alkaline or neutral pH leads to the opening of stomata. So here the answer is A. The formation of which one of the following substance in guard cell is responsible for the closure of stomata? Which of the following substance is responsible for the closing of stomata? So you have studied, as per both the hypothesis, hypothesis, that is Stewards hypothesis proposed by scientist Stewards in 1964, and Levitt hypothesis proposed by scientist Levitt. Proton transport concept, it is also called as it is also called as potassium pump hypothesis proposed by scientist Levitt in 1974. According to both of these hypotheses or theories, the substance which is responsible for the closure of stomata, it is starch, because starch is insoluble substance, and when it is formed, it ultimately, as it is insoluble, it decreases the osmotic concentration of the cell sap of guard cell, and therefore by subsequent event the stomata become closed during nighttime or in acidic pH. So answer here is starch, C. Who among the following isolated an enzyme phosphorylase? Sometimes they will ask that who among the following discovered the enzyme phosphorylase? So the answer here will be In and Tung. But actually Hens is the scientist who discovered the enzyme, whereas In and Tung isolated an enzyme phosphorylase in crystalline form. So here answer is B. Identify the enzyme catalyzing this reaction, conversion of starch into sugar, called as glucose 1-phosphate. When inorganic phosphate is added to this polymer, there is formation of glucose 1-phosphate. So which enzyme is responsible for this reversible reaction? So I have stated that that enzyme isolated by In and Tung, it is called as phosphorylase. So D is the answer, phosphorylase. So match again. Reactions are given in the first list, and in the second list the names of enzymes are given, and you have to match. So you know we have started with the starch, which is converted into glucose 1-phosphate, and this reaction is catalyzed by enzyme, which enzyme? Phosphorylase. So 4A. Then glucose 1-phosphate is converted into glucose 6-phosphate. This is just isomerization reaction, where the phosphate group from one carbon of glucose, it is attached to or transferred to the 6 carbon position. So this is isomerization reaction, glucose 1-phosphate to glucose 6-phosphate. This is also reversible reaction, and it is catalyzed by enzyme phosphoglucomutase. Whereas glucose 6-phosphate, it is hydrolyzed into glucose and inorganic phosphate, and this hydrolytic enzyme is called as phosphatase. Whereas glucose, when it takes energy in the form of ATP, it is converted, or it forms glucose 6-phosphate. So this is synthesis reaction where phosphate is added to the sixth position, and therefore the enzyme is hexo means 6. So this reaction is catalyzed by enzyme hexokinase. So after proper matching, you will get the right answer, and that is option D. That is the right answer. Okay, next question. According to Stewards hypothesis, which of the following steps is responsible for increasing the osmotic concentration of guard cells? So you have studied in the historical development, and Stewards said that only conversion up to glucose 1-phosphate or glucose 6-phosphate is not sufficient for increasing the osmotic concentration, but that glucose 6-phosphate has to be dissociated into glucose and inorganic phosphate. And these two substances are osmotically equally active, and they together increase the osmotic concentration of guard cells. So this reaction, glucose 6-phosphate to glucose and inorganic phosphate, is responsible for increasing osmotic concentration of guard cells. So glucose along with the inorganic phosphate is responsible for increasing the osmotic concentration of guard cell. So when osmotic concentration of guard cell increases, the cells absorb water from the neighboring cell, they become turgid, and then by subsequent events, stomata becomes open. So C is the right answer here. Next one, which of the following reactions is an active process requiring an expenditure of metabolic energy in the form of ATP? So you have studied that. So see here, glucose 6-phosphate can be synthesized by two ways. So it can be synthesized from glucose 1-phosphate. Glucose 1-phosphate just get converted into glucose 6-phosphate. This is just isomerization reaction, and it doesn't require energy as such. But when glucose takes energy in the form of ATP, then it forms glucose 6-phosphate. It is catalyzed by reaction. It is catalyzed by enzyme hexokinase, and this reaction requires ATP. So phosphate group from ATP is used in this reaction. So here actually there is glucose plus ATP gives rise to glucose 6-phosphate plus ADP, isn't it? Or an inorganic phosphate, which is attached here at the 6th position. So this is the energy consuming process which takes place during night time, and this requires expenditure of energy. So D is the right answer. Which of the following gives the most valid explanation for the mechanism of opening and closing of stomata? So which is the most valid theory of opening and closing of stomata? It is called as potassium pump theory. It is also called as proton transport because there is transport of H plus ions. So it is called as proton transport concept. And it is called as potassium pump because there is movement of H plus ions and K plus ions at the same time inside and outside in the form of a pump. So it is called as potassium pump, and this theory is also called as Levitt hypothesis. So D is the right answer. Option D is the right. So as per this hypothesis, Levitt, during daytime, potassium pump constitutes what? So during daytime, what happens? During daytime there is efflux. That means outward movement of H plus ions outside the guard side, and influx, that is inside movement or inward movement of potassium ions. Potassium ions which are present in the neighboring cells, subsidiary cells, which are called as ion storage cells, they give rise to potassium ions inside the guard cells, and at the same time there is outward movement of H plus ions. So this happens during daytime. Okay, so B is the right answer. So as per this hypothesis, which of the following is responsible for increasing the osmotic concentration of guard cells during daytime? So what happens here? We have studied, as per Stewards hypothesis, glucose and inorganic phosphate are the substances which are responsible for increasing the osmotic concentration of guard cells. But as per Levitt hypothesis, it is the substance called as potassium malate, because when potassium enter inside, they combine with the negative malate ions or anions. So they form or it form substance called as potassium malate, and this is soluble substance. It increases the osmotic concentration of guard cells, and then by subsequent events, stomata become open. So C is the right answer here. According to this theory, which of the following hormone which works in higher CO2 concentration resist the entry of K plus ions inside the guard cells? So which hormone acts as a guard which resist K plus ions when the concentration of CO2 is higher, usually during night time? So this hormone is called as ABA, abscisic acid inhibitory hormone, and this hormone is responsible for the closure of stomata. So this hormone, abscisic acid, is also used as an antitranspirant hormone. C is the right answer. Who among the following called transpiration as a necessary evil due to its advantages as well as disadvantages? So who was that scientist? So the scientist was Curtis, who in 1926 called transpiration as necessary evil due to its merits as well as demerits. Curtis is the right answer, 1926. A. Okay. The rate of transpiration is inversely proportional. Inversely proportional means when this factor increases, the rate of transpiration decreases. That is called as inverse proportion. And the rate is called as directly proportional. When the factor increases, the transpiration also increases. So see here, there are different factors, external factors given. So we know that light, temperature, and wind velocity, these are the factors which are directly proportional to the rate of transpiration. That means when there is increase in the light intensity, rate of transpiration increases. When temperature increases, rate of transpiration or speed of transpiration increases. When wind velocity increases, rate of transpiration increases. That means these factors are directly proportional, whereas relative humidity is inversely proportional. That means when humidity of the outside atmosphere increases, rate of transpiration decreases, isn't it? And when it decreases, the plant gets more chances to add its own water vapors into the atmosphere. So that is called as inverse proportion. D is the right answer here. Okay. So the rate of transpiration is not directly proportional, means it is inversely proportional to which of the following factors? Again, light, temperature, and wind velocity are directly proportional, but atmospheric pressure is inversely proportional to the rate of transpiration, because we studied as we go upward, the rate of the atmospheric pressure goes on decreasing, and that is the reason why rate of transpiration is very high at the plants growing at high altitudes. But up to it is minimized up to certain extent because of low temperature also. So D is the right answer here. So there is some sort of compensation for the plants growing at high altitudes. There is low temperature, therefore they can compensate. this factor. Okay, the rate of transpiration is inversely proportional to, again, light, temperature, wind velocity. These are external factors which are directly related to transpiration, but carbon dioxide concentration is inversely proportional. That means when carbon dioxide concentration increases, the rate of transpiration decreases, and therefore this gas, carbon dioxide, also acts as an anti-transparent substance. When we increase the when we increase the concentration of carbon dioxide in the air, in the atmosphere, which is equivalent to 0.03%, when we increase it up to some extent, up to 0.05%, in that case, carbon dioxide gas acts as an anti-transparent. So here answer is D. Okay, under which of the following conditions transpiration would be most rapid? So faster rate of transpiration would be observed if the temperature is high and humidity is low, because this is inversely proportional and this is directly proportional to the transpiration. So B is the right answer here. The stomata are open at night and closed during daytime. In which category of plants? So this happens usually in xerophytes to minimize the rate of transpiration, and these plants are called as succulent xerophytes. In case of non-succulent xerophytes, this is not possible, and therefore these xerophytes, non-succulent type of xerophytes like your nerium, ficus, they develop some another characters, some structural peculiarities of leaves like your sunken stomata or multiple epidermis. So here answer is succulent xerophytes, in which stomata are open at night and closed during daytime. A is the right answer. The sunken stomata and multiple epidermis are found in the leaves of, just now we discussed, both sunken stomata and multiple epidermis are found in the leaves of nerium plant. C is the right answer. The transpiration takes place in plants through roots, leaves, stem. See all the options. Leaves is also right, stem is also right, but all aerial parts are involved in transpiration. So D is the right answer. So you have to read all the options A, B, C, D. Even if you are sure about leaves, second or third option, you have to reach up to all the options. So D is the right answer here. Which of the following is not correct regarding the transpiration in plants? Transpiration plays a significant role in the process of ascent of sap. That is right. It plays a significant role in passive absorption of matter and passive absorption of water that we studied. Transpiration pool is responsible for passive method of absorption, and therefore ascent of sap also takes place, lowering the temperature of plant. This is also right. But active absorption of water is not related to transpiration. So B is not here correct. So it is the right answer, B. Water is lost in the form of liquid droplets through, we have studied this process is called as gutttation, and here water is lost through a special type of stomata called as water stomata or hydathodes. D is the right answer. These hydathodes or water stomata are open during daytime or nighttime. They are open during daytime as well as nighttime. They are open throughout the day and night because there is no mechanism like opening and closing of stomata for hydathodes. So C is the right answer. Which of the following processes is involved in the production of rubber from rubber plant, Hevea brasiliensis? So we have studied that process is called as exudation. Here some injury is made to the stem or bark so that laticifer tissues they yield latex by this process exudation. So D is the right answer. Which of the following processes is involved in the production of toddy juice from toddy plant or toddy palm boraces is the botanical name. So this process is again called as exudation. In case of toddy palm as well as your date palm, exudation is responsible for giving the sap, which is actually not xylem sap, it is phloem sap consisting of some sugar also. So for that again some injury is made to the plant, and that process is called as exudation or bleeding. So D is the right answer here. Which of the following is not true regarding the guttation? It occurs when water absorption is high, root pressure is high, transpiration is high, all of this. So you know, for guttation, the main factor is root pressure. Root pressure means when there is accumulation of water inside the root or inside the xylem of root due to active water absorption, then there is formation of pressure, that is the dynamic pressure, hydrostatic pressure, and it is called as root pressure. So this root pressure is possible when there is high rate of water absorption, but when there is low rate of transpiration, root pressure develops. So this is not true. When transpiration is low, guttation takes place. So C is the right answer. Which of the following antitranspirants doesn't form thin film when sprayed on the lip surface? So you have studied there are different types of antitranspirants, but colorless plastics, silicone oils, and low viscosity waxes, these three substances form one group as a spray, because when they are sprayed on the lip surface, they form a thin film for resisting transpiration. Whereas PMA, phenyl mercuric acetate, is a substance from another group. It is a fungicide, and when it is used in a lower concentration of 10⁻⁴ molar, it also acts as antitranspirant, but not belong to this group. So here the answer is D. Carbon dioxide also acts as an antitranspirant when used in a concentration of, so we have studied this, the natural concentration of carbon dioxide in the air is 0.03%, and if we increase it up to 0.05%, in that case it will act as an antitranspirant. And this is possible only in your polyhouses or greenhouses. So D is the right answer. And higher concentration of CO2 cannot be used because it will lead to the complete closure of stomata. So which of the following is an ideal antitranspirant? It is a reflective type of antitranspirant which decreases the temperature of leaf by increasing the light reflection. So which is that ideal antitranspirant, which is less toxic to the plant? It is available in the market under the trade name called as kaolin, and it is kaolinite. So C is the right answer here. Okay. Which of the following devices is used to measure the rate of transpiration in the plant? In the very first picture, we have seen that device, and for practical purpose, it is used. So that device is called as Photometer, an instrument which is used to measure the rate of transpiration, the speed of transpiration in plants. So D is the right answer here. So we have covered up till now 40 questions on transpiration. These are some of the references, standard books I have referred for preparing this question bank, and these are some of the websites also. So I always request you to subscribe to this channel, S.Y.B.Sc Botany channel. So once you subscribe and click the bell icon, you will get immediately notified, and you subscribe and go to the video section of this channel, so that you will get all videos from this series, multiple choice question series on plant physiology. All these videos related to your syllabus, different number of multiple questions, 20, 40 multiple questions, seed dormancy, seed germination, nitrogen metabolism, photoperiodism, water absorption, ascent of sap, transpiration, and in all these form total 200 multiple choice questions on plant physiology. So this will be quite helpful for your self-evaluation and practice for your forthcoming examination on plant physiology, paper of botany paper 2nd. So thank you very much for kindly listening to this. I will stop share. Okay. If you have any problem, any question related to this, then you can ask. You can write your question in the comment box, so that I can find the answer for you. So study hard, go to all the videos, prepare for your examination, and all the best. Thank you. Thank you very much.